In this episode, how do you choose the right tyres, like the Goldilocks right tyre for you, especially if you care about performance and safety? That's next. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au and I get new cars cheap. Australia only, website. Card. Now, got a question from a dude just like you, only named Mark Balkan. Balco, son. This is a great question, I like it. Everyone goes down this track and you go to a tyre shop and the dude behind the counter's got some suggestion and you don't know if it's the best one. He's probably just suggesting that particular tyre to you because, hey, that's the one where the big bucks are for him. Anywho, Balco says, please don't hold it against me as I now have a Tesla Model S. Love it the way disciples of electric Jesus feel as if they must apologise for their, let's call it, faith every time they reach out. Anyway, fitted from new with Michelin Pilot Sport 4 245 R19 102Y tyres. Not a bad choice, I'd have to say. Surprisingly, they are AO, being Audi OEM specification, whilst a little disappointed with the durability lasting just 21,500 kilometres, which could be from my over-exuberant exploitation of the vehicle's performance. It could also be, in part, due to how friggin' heavy it is. There's that. I am otherwise satisfied with them. Yes, and so should you be, because they're frigging excellent tyres at cornering and stopping and all of that stuff that either fun or safety is based on. So, yeah, approved, dude. I am otherwise satisfied with them. With replacement imminent, should I seek non-OEM, OEM or Tesla TO tyres? Are there differences? And if so, are they worthwhile? Shetra. Okay. Choosing tyres is like this, right? Now, I have this kind of background in testing tyres where I forgot to step backwards quickly enough when Wheels magazine was looking for a tyre tester all those years ago, back when Wheels wasn't shit. And because of my sins, having been to university, studying engineering, blah, 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 I was the guy, okay? And the then editor, a good dude named Jed Bulmer, went out and made contact via the various advertising reptiles in-house to the tyre companies, and they stumped up a bunch of engineers, and I got together with them and we talked about how the friggin' hell we should do this without sort of ending up with egg all over our faces. So the in-house engineering types from the various name brand premium tyres in Australia, like Bridgestone and Michelin and Goodyear and all of that, they got together with us and came up with how you should do this with vestigial credibility intact kind of testing protocol, okay? And the thing that I learnt from all of that, and I must have done it for at least 4 years in a row, is that it's really hard to maintain a thing called experimental control when you're down at that level of trying to differentiate between all of these premium tyres. Like, it's easy to tell a shit tyre from a good tyre, but it's really hard to pick the teeth out of all the good ones because they're all in the noise up here. And you don't know if the differences are actually failures of experimental control or actual differences between the tyres. And I'll just give you an example of that, okay? Like, you can get a race driver and you can put together a slalom and it can be dry, so consistently dry. And he can start out on one set of tyres, and one of the things we did was we made sure that the driver was blind to the brand so that he didn't go out there on the track expecting, say, Michelin to outperform Kumho, right? So the driver didn't know, and he was a proper race driver with lots of hours on the track, okay, so he had skills. But even so, you put him out with tyre number 1, he does the slalom, then he comes back and they change tyres and he goes again. It warms up a little bit because the big solar furnace gets a bit higher and the track just gets baked, and he comes out again and does it all again. Two things could have happened. Track could have gotten stickier and he might have learned. And how do you compensate for that? And even so, the performance is really similar, okay? And we did all of these different tests. We did steady state cornering, we did slalom for transient, and then we tried to do wet testing as well. And Wet is even harder to be experimentally controlled over because what is wet? Is it just like damp, like a shower's just gone over and the track's a bit wet, but you're not going to fall over it if you try and run on it kind of thing? Or is it a quarter of an inch of flowing water across the track? And you can't test one tyre with a stream of water flowing over it and another tyre with the track just damp. It's got to be the same version of wet all the time. And that's pretty hard in summer, particularly with big solar furnace, limited capacity to trickle water over the track, and maybe the clouds go between the sun and you for 10 minutes. That means less evaporation off the track, and conditions change is what I'm saying. So what I found was that the performance of all premium tyres, like if you get a particular tyre, like we'll take Balco's case here, which is 245 45 19 102Y, right? If you just get a whole bunch of those tyres, good luck, dude, telling the difference between them. And then what you've got to say is what's more important to you, even if there is a big difference, right? Like if there's a difference between a time in the slalom and another difference the other way, perhaps with braking distance, okay? What do you do? Exactly how do you decide which tyre is better? Because for some people, like the safety conscious people, braking is going to be more important, right? But for the performance aficionado, then slalom, transient performance, steady state cornering, all of that stuff, that's going to be more important. And there's another class of user for whom wet stopping is the ultimate version of shit scared out there on the road, and they want the tyre that's going to stop the best in the wet. And it is absolutely impossible for me to get down into that granular level of detail and just say what tyre's the best. But what I will say is that if you buy the right size tyre with the right sort of orientation, like if you've got a performance car and you're buying the premium performance tyre across all the different brands, and you buy the same kind of tyre, like let's not compare a directional tyre with an asymmetric tyre, because a directional tyre is going to be better in the wet because that deep V-shaped tread thing is about ejecting water. Okay, so it's going to be better in the wet, but it's going to be noisier and it's probably not going to be as good in the dry at extremes of performance. Whereas your asymmetric tyre is going to have those rigid tread blocks on the outsides, so it'll be good at grabbing the road when the car is in a cornering state and it rolls over one way and one edge is trying to really kick its way under the car. That rigid tread block thing will do its thing, and then those tyres typically have longitudinal sort of circumferential grooves that provide excellent high-speed stability, and they're pretty quiet. And the inside of the tyre can then be biased towards water ejection in the rain, so you get this sort of differential of performance intent across the tread face with an asymmetric tyre. But anyway, if you buy the tyre apples for apples, asymmetric premium performance tyre for your car, it can be Pirelli, Michelin, Bridgestone, Dunlop, Goodyear, any of those premium brands, all right? And you are not going to be able to tell the difference in terms of grip, wet weather performance, or any of that stuff. It's gonna be good. The thing you've got to avoid is buying a properly cheap tyre, right? So if you don't know the brand, if it's a, Double Happiness Road Gripper from Shanghai, right, made of the world's best Chinesium rubber thing, it's not going to be as good. It's just not. It might look the same. It might even be a dead set naked rip-off of one of the name brands. But this is the problem with tyres, right? They all look black and round. But there are profound differences between the premium ones that cost you substantially more and the cheap, shitty, no-name ones you've never heard of that might be getting foisted upon you. Because one of the grim realities of tyre retailing in Australia is that unlike Mark here, who is concerned about getting the best tyres for his car, safety, performance, longevity, things of this nature, there's another class of tyre purchaser in this country who just walks into a tyre shop and goes, just give me some cheap tyres from me Commodore, mate. It's just the missus' car. Like, it's only got the wife and the kids in it. I don't need good tyres for that, right? What do these people think? That'd be the car you'd want the good tyres on, because when they're out there and some dickhead does something stupid and mum's got a break and there are 4 lives on the line and 3 of them are your missus and the 2 kids and the other one is the peanut doing something stupid, don't you want your kids and your missus to be protected by the best possible tyre? I mean, I'd love to be a fly on the wall at some of these tyre shops and just listen to some of these conversations, but every tyre retailer to whom I have ever spoken will tell you, hand on heart, dude, there is a significant slice of society just wants some cheap tyres from me Corolla. You know, it's just for the missus and the kids, mate. You need to sit someone down like that and just slap them until they change their attitude, because, hey, I don't get it. Anyway, choose a premium branded tyre. And I'd suggest the other thing to do here is be particularly careful about directional tyres, because they only go on one side of the car. So if you've got a directional spare, that tyre might be oriented the right way around for being on the right-hand side of the car, but it'll be exactly the wrong way around for being on the left-hand side of the car. Like, the V's got to go down at the front, okay? Like, so that it rotates like that and ejects the water. If the V goes down towards the back, as the tyre rotates, it's going to collect water from the outside and pump it into the centre, which is kind of exactly what you don't want. And if you're struggling to come to grips with that, just have a look on a car as it drives past from left to right as you look at it. Like, across this way, the tyres are rotating clockwise, all right? And then go and have a look at the same car driving across this way from right to left, okay? The tyres on that side, on the left-hand side of the car, they're rotating counterclockwise. And yet the car is just moving through space in the same direction. So the direction of rotation of the right-hand tyres is the opposite of the direction of rotation of the left-hand tyres, even though the whole car is all going together all at once and not being ripped in half by this differential rotation. Ergo, a directional tyre is a shit spare, because there's a 50% chance that it will be oriented the wrong way on the rim, okay? And if that happens and you're driving at 100 k's home and it rains, well, that's a suboptimal day for that tyre and you won't be gripping the road particularly well. The other thing I'd suggest is, if you buy asymmetric tyres, just do yourself a favour before you drive away from the tyre shop and just look at all 4 tyres and make sure the word outside is actually visible on the outside sidewall of each of those 4 tyres, because if that tyre gets fitted around the wrong way, those tyres can fit at any point on the car, but they all have to be fitted the right way on the rim, with the outside of the tyre on the outside of the rim, okay? They have to line up like that, and if they don't, then the handling is going to be shot and you might not know why. But when it comes to the brand, just choose a good one. You're going to be 99 out of 100 on making the right choice. And don't necessarily listen to the guy behind the counter, because there are so many vested interests in the tyre retailing game that it's just not funny.